You read that title correctly, and what they told us over the last 6 years was more so fiction than fact. So they already had access to powerful technology back then? Well, that's why you're here now, tuned in to see more in-depth details to support what's about to be shared today. See, I like finding out where things come from. I just don't sit back and let controlled experts tell me what they're only allowed to say. Nah, that's bullshit, I say. You have to take up that truth shovel and dig deep into these matters yourself. That's how it has always been, and that's how it always will be. So let's dive into this, because this session will likely blow your mind into the next century. Alright, ever feel like your thoughts aren't your own? You know, as if they were hijacked and you're thinking, something's not right here, but damn it, I can't put my finger on what it is? Are you thinking there's a hidden element or force screwing with your head? Well, you're spot on, which is due to the fact we're witnessing elite factions using psychological tactics, AI, deepfakes, and quantum tech to deceive your psyche. Or, to put it bluntly, are they messing with your mind? I'll say there's what? 50, maybe 60% of people may acknowledge some events shown on the net were faked. A total entanglement of deception, done straight up toward public mentality. It's a bridge leading you to being notoriously gaslighted, yet, people lean in closer, viewing what's shown on a video screen as supposedly 100% factual. That's like saying 90% of Nazi Party members were taken into custody, and would later give testimony at the Nuremberg trials. Yea, not likely. The fact of the matter is, many were smuggled into America, particularly in Texas at Fort Bliss, not to mention other states and countries. Many stories were told about the Nazi regime, and viewers are unaware that Hollywood injected their ideas within a number of hit films. They Live is a guilty one, because it spills insider secrets told discreetly in story format through the protagonist character John Nutter. He's subjected to hidden truths so mind-blowing it leaves him with a blistering headache at one point. All of which was brought on by a pair of tech glass advanced eyewear dubbed the Hoffman shades. The shades themselves originated from other publications dating decades back in time. The Hoffman lenses reveal a world covered in commands like obey, submit, and consume. This reflects the big lie, or the Gros Bouge is a technique associated with Nazi propaganda. If you repeat a simple power message often enough, it becomes the psychological wallpaper of society, which is straight out of the Third Reich's playbook, because it spills insider secrets told discreetly in story format through the movie's protagonist John Nutter. By the way, the shades hold a connection to the 1963 short story titled 8 O'Clock in the Morning by Ray Nelson. It helped inspire John Carpenter's use of those shades in his sci-fi flick. The other aspect is traced further back to E.T.A. Hoffman's The Sandman, 1816, where a young man named Nathaniel buys a small pocket telescope called an optic from an oddball salesman named Coppola. The point of him buying that telescope was to look through it at a girl named Olympia in a house across the street. It's her pseudo-beauty that drives high levels of obsession within him. Although the girl he thought was there, is just an illusion. Like the 1980s hit song It's Just an Illusion. Oh yeah, Jedi Mind Swap Trick 101 indeed. To which Nathaniel later learns the girl of his dreams was never real. She's just an illusion he believed was there. And that's the idea. As the writer of that novel fashions her as a robotic-like young lady. So basically, this ETA guy was hinted at a perceived future that eventually accepts AI technology, which is what you now see going on today on the net. That's the ultimate illusion, getting people to think something is real when it obviously isn't. So this leads to psychological warfare. By duping someone into believing what seems real was nothing but a bogus facade all along. And the Nazis included such methods within their Third Reich regime. The concentration camps Dachau and Auschwitz was where they ran brutal mind control tests on POWs. They injected them with mescaline, which was part of their experiments to observe the effects that caused schizophrenic behavior. As they used it to pry the truth from them during interrogations, they used hypnosis tactics on them, and also they subjected them to sensory deprivation tactics. Then came the freezing experiments, and now surely you're wondering why such acts of cruelty? Well, that was done to break their will. And the goal was to create obedient slaves. That's why. I remember Marie. She may be still living today. She was in her 60s back then in 2002. I met her through my ex-girlfriend, which was a day after the night where loud screaming echoed from Marie's room. My girlfriend, Marie, and another woman stayed in an apartment-like complex run by a lady named Arlene. Just giving you some minor backstory details of the living arrangements. So Marie was screaming, to which I sensed it was German. I recognized how it sounded. I woke my girlfriend up and asked what's going on. She told me Marie was in a concentration camp as a little girl, and was lucky to survive. Yay, that blew a few circuits out in my head after hearing that, and I even talked to Marie a little about it. But it was likely she witnessed some level of horrific moments while there at one of the camps. After reading up on it through the years, the key thing that stood out was the mind control methods, or what would come later to be known as MK Ultraism. This is where evil doctors like Joseph Mengele, aka the Angel of Death, tortured thousands of prisoners. He combined and used various drugs on them. He initiated trauma tactics, beatings of prisoners to force erase the willpower out of his captives. Once the Third Reich fell out of power, the only thing left for the members of the Reich was surely death sentences. But the rest were offered a vast number of experimental mind-altering occupations. That was due to the fact that American government agencies couldn't resist learning more about the Nazis' brainwashing methods. So Operation Paperclip was given the green light, and the US started taking them out of Germany. Over 1,600 high-profile Nazis escaped. One in particular, Wernher von Braun, or the SS rocket guy, landed in Texas in 1945. Braun, like other Nazis, quickly spilled serious secrets for immunity, and he started working on the Saturn V rocket technology. But there's more left to unpack. Because this wasn't solely about creating rockets to go further in space. This was more so about the technological breakthroughs that were the key focus. These sick minds brought their psychological warfare blueprints into American governing agencies to be used to serve their sinister agendas. Declassified docs show they advised CIA on behavioral engineering mind control for the masses. Yay, that term again. It just screams Demolition Man, as in the movie. Specifically the part where Officer John Spartan is holding a ball of yarn wrapped in that exact word phrase. Nevertheless, did former General Eisenhower, before he became a US president, know anything about the Nazis' deeper agendas? Well, he did see the victims left behind once he arrived at various locations within those concentration camps. And he was never the same again after seeing what he couldn't unsee. Although, the real focus centers around the creation of DARPA, and that's not to leave out the official start of MK Ultra in 1953. The operation was overseen by the CIA for the next 20 years, and majority of the mind-altering tactics came from the ideas of Nazi scientists. The same objective to break their will would now be applied to unwilling individuals placed into the program on American soil. You got the plague weapons scientist Kurt Blome, who practiced Joseph Mengele's tactics on his victims at the concentration camps. And like mentioned in Session 8, which falls over into Session 9, they provide an expansive overview about mind control and MK Ultraism. Session 9 gets into the deeper aspects surrounding Woodstock 69 and the Manson family. So make sure to check out those two sessions that can provide further details. But one thing I definitely say is that the events in 1969 were tied to the CIA involvement. And that's not to mention those subjected to the program who suffered untold levels of abuse, such as Kathy O'Brien, Bryce Taylor, and Arizona Wilder, among others. Okay, let's fast forward from the seeds dropped by the Nazi Party to how their mind-altering tactics are tied into modern-day technology. There's controversial AI causing a huge ruckus on the World Wide Web as of late, so guess where we're gonna start after hearing that? It's a wild guess that 99.999% of people will no doubt miss every time. If you said deepfakes, then you hit the jackpot. The bad part is there's no lottery jackpot money to present you with, so go figure. Alrighty then, DARPA has been funding PSYOP fake leaders surrendering, and sowing chaos since 2016. And it gets very interesting from there, which is due to a number of stated phrases associated with deep fakes, additional names such as synthetic media, or deceptive audio, or how about visual media, all of which ties into both Russian and Chinese propaganda. And the US military sees this as info warfare gold. Most of the population in the US, that's not to mention other parts of the world, heard quite a bit about AI cloned voices. This opens up yet another avenue of online deception, where infamous scam calls target millions of smart devices, particularly smartphone users, whose phones are targeted by track calls run by online hackers. And one of the most common attacks they initiate is mimicking voices using AI technology. These are deceptive calls where the user believes they are talking with a friend or loved one, but it's not really that person calling from the other end. And that's the main aspect, which is people's voices being used in deceptive ways. That's a direct throwback to this scene here, where the Terminator is noted to be a very methodical, cold-hearted killer, fueled not by a conscience. It's running on a fully programmed digitized AI database, which passes for an artificial brain. And within its database, there are gigabytes of info uploaded within its brain, and one of the most vital information all Terminators understand is controlling the situation. In this case, it uses voice mimic technology to deceive the listener into thinking they're having a valid conversation with a significant other, or family member, friend. It can even imitate the voice of a lovable pet. So you're seeing this in Terminator 2, the movie that came out in 1990, and that's a little over 35 years now. Basically, Hollywood was ordered to give you sneak peeks of what was yet to come. Although, today that type of technology is here and further advanced than it was at that time. Criminals use this type of technology for the purposes of distortion, and victims have been ripped off, losing a lot of money, in some cases millions of dollars, from the sound of a sincere yet deceptive voice. Now if we're talking supercomputer quantum type technology, well, that tracks back to Richard Feynman's 1982 idea. Yeah, an idea backed by DARPA, that involves powerful computing applications capable of simulating the human mind, not to mention cracking encrypted data for the purpose of surveillance unbeknownst to consumer buyers. Stepping things up a few notches, let's jump into the world of high society, where the elites are positioned 20 years ahead of the AI tech curve. The scope of interest here places the focus on black budget operations, which means there's highly sophisticated quantum AI used for predictive mind control. And this involves high levels of public deception that deals with AI flooding of fake social media bots, the faking of crowds, memes, the specific news content. Even elections are not excluded from such deception. Deepfakes can be used to rig votes, like what took place in countries such as Slovakia. Even resurrected dictators may turn up online like a total hocus-pocus magic trick, when in retrospect they already checked out years ago. Government agencies are notorious for messing with public mentality, and they love invoking emotional manipulation within societal classes from the middle to the lower classes of society. They nailed it, as it showcased the power of subliminal messaging fused within disinformative media outlets, that's now AI amplified online today. Director John Carpenter introduced that to us, because he, like other iconic directors, like Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, James Cameron, David Cronenberg, Stanley Kubrick, and others, knew what was coming to a digitized reality near you. And these are insiders who knew that predictive programming prepped us to be controlled. Elites are staging reality, keeping us consumed, asleep, and most importantly, they're keeping us stupefied into oblivion, because they're not interested in anyone knowing what they have in store for us. Because this is strictly all about top-down societal control over the mass public. And AI autonomous tech was always the key choice of weaponry to be used to help the bigwigs in charge will secure their place in history of the past and the coming future ahead. And former members of the Third Reich were riding their coattails along the way. So whenever you hear the terms AI human voices, deepfakes, quantum tech, and MKUltra, as well as other ops operations were planned, initiated, and used decades before today's technology, always remember that DARPA was created for that very reason, which was to secretly experiment on mind-blowing technology as back from the 1950s. So the smartphones, The tablets, the smart TVs at best are nothing but hand-me-down technology, slapped with a hefty price tag consumers will buy, and the financial proceeds just get dumped right back into producing better technology, and they again will be years ahead before that technology gets passed down to consumers. And you can bet your bottom inflation dollar they will be using such tech to control the masses in one way or another. Damn, if the public could only realize how manipulated the world they live in truly is. So if you liked what you heard today about the deeper levels of societal manipulation and mind control used in ways you never suspected before, then smash that like button. Make sure to subscribe to Mind Blast Mechanics, where we dive deep into the observations that matter. Don't miss our next video, so make sure to tap that bell. Thanks for watching.